I'm Bruce Harders, and this is Voices in the Village. Today we have with us Beverly Bremers, I would call her a friend of the village. You know, we have two types of visitors, those that actually live here and those that bring their talents, their do good deeds, etc., right here into the village. And Beverly, among other things, directed a number of shows for the Theater Guild and had a good time at it. But anyway, Beverly, thanks for coming by, and welcome to Voices in the Village.
Well, thank you, Bruce, star of one of my shows.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, it's been a while that we got together. It was just at the time when the Groovels were going on stage. Mm-hmm. And I remember my wife and I saw it at Clubhouse 3, and we just thought it was the most fantastic show ever. And are you still doing that? What's with that show? Are you still doing that at all?
Yes. What you saw was our long show,
yeah.
our 90-minute show. But normally we play for clubs and different organizations and events. We usually do an hour. So, in fact, we've been here in the village quite a few times for various clubs, and will be again later in the year.
Right.
So our show has a lot of variety, as you saw, and a lot of costume changes and wigs.
Right, right.
Because it's really doing the music of the 60s and 70s, specifically by all those great female artists.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we loved all that music, and it's a great era. You know, it's the Woodstock generation.
Right, right.
And so, you know, we have a lot of fun doing it.
Have you thought about taking it on the road big time?
Oh yes, I would love to take it on the road. I'm in the process of looking for a booking agent that can do that, because they're the people with all the contacts. So yeah, we're looking to do that. I would also love to be on a cruise ship.
Oh yeah.
Get a little vacation in there. You know, and perform. So yeah, I'm looking at all venues. You know.
When I was watching it, I thought, wouldn't that be a great show to take to Europe or someplace overseas where they probably aren't familiar with some of those eras and some of those songs, but it's such a good, wholesome description of what music was like in those years.
Yeah. Oh, you look back at it now and you're like, we were so innocent. We really weren't, but it seemed that way.
Yeah,
you know, the 60s and 70s was a very tumultuous time as well, and the music reflected that. Going from the late 60s into the early 70s was quite different than the early 60s, and then the later 70s when we got into disco and more back to dancing, you know. So it's just a lot of fun, and what's great about it is everybody knows the words. Right. And you know, we do choreography as well, and a little audience participation. You know, we like to have a good time, and that's really what the operative word is: fun. Yeah.
So, what are you doing these days?
Well, besides performing with the Groovels, I perform as a single act. I just got back from New York a couple of weeks ago. It was a little chilly there, but I performed there in Midtown Manhattan, and I'll be returning there next, October. I'll be performing in Westchester County there, and I'll be in Jackson, Tennessee in April. And so what I'm doing is also my 60s and 70s show, because that's what everybody wants to hear, is 60s and 70s. So
I've kind of lost track. Your most famous record from music. What year did that occur?
That was 1972.
And the name was?
And that was called Don't Say You Don't Remember.
That's right.
And it's one of those songs that you might say, play a few bars, and then as soon as you hear it, you go, oh yeah.
That's right, that's right.
And then I had another hit after that called We're Free.
Yeah, I remember that
which,
too.
Was also during that time.
Right.
And so that, coupled with the fact that I was in Hair on Broadway.
And what year was that?
That was, well, I was in it in 1969, and then I went back and was in 71, 72.
And how old were you then?
I was 19 was the first time I was in it. So.
Well, for those of you that remember Hair, I mean, that was famous for a lot of reasons. I remember the most famous part was when they all dropped their drawers at the very end of the show.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. That's one of those things that if you blinked, you missed it.
Yeah, right.
And the publicity department
Made a big deal.
built that up, and
Yeah.
oh, the nude scene.
Yeah.
It was unusual, but not really. There was already another show called Oh Calcutta running that had way more nudity. It was full dance numbers
Right,
with
right.
nudity. Basically, the idea in Hair was it emulated a painting. It was in the darkness with a few lights, and it was to show the loss of innocence of all these kids protesting the Vietnam War. But of course, it was built up into a big deal.
It was, yeah.
But seriously, if you glance down, you missed it.
I saw the show in Chicago of all places,
yeah.
and you're right. It was very. I think the lights went off too, didn't
Yeah,
they?
well, the lights went off immediately after because it was the end of the first act,
Yeah.
and if you remember, then the police came in and said you were all busted for watching this lewd show. And of course, it took people aback, and of course, it was cast members dressed
Right,
like
exactly.
policemen.
Exactly.
I've seen recent productions of it, and it's funny, the kids today don't quite understand that era. So now when they do the nude scene, they just sort of stand there and take off their clothes and they're all defiant, which really wasn't the point of the scene back
Right,
then,
right.
you know, so it's changed a little bit.
Do you think being as young as you were that was that a handicap or was that an advantage, do you think?
Well, when I got in the show, no one had heard of it. It was running only because Clive Barnes, who was the big reviewer at the time for the New York Times, loved it. And that the producer of the show, Michael Butler, was a millionaire, and he pretty much put in his own money, and he believed in the show so strongly that he kept it going. And then about 3 weeks after I went into the show, the Fifth Dimension's record, Aquarius Let the Sunshine In, broke onto the charts, and it went virtually overnight to being a show that had modest houses to standing room only for years after that.
Right.
So it was quite an experience for me. I never did the nude scene, by the way. It wasn't even mentioned to me until I was signing my contract. They had a little writer, if you feel like doing it, go ahead. That was all they had.
Right.
So. No.
So I guess the two big things currently in your music life is the a brand new CD and also publishing of your musical.
Yes, I was very excited. I've written 5 musicals that have all been produced either in San Diego or Los Angeles. And this last one was a Christmas musical, Gift of the Magi, based on the famous short story by O. Henry.
Right.
And we expanded it and added characters and plot lines. And it was produced last Christmas in Thousand Oaks. We got great reviews and everything was fabulous. And that's basically the prerequisite to getting it published, which was my main goal, because I want theaters to have the option every Christmas of, besides just Christmas Carol.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you, is what happens after it's published? Where does it go from there? Who uses it? Who looks at it?
They have a catalog, and they have actually 3 publishing companies. One goes to the schools, one goes to community theaters and professional theaters, and then there's a third one that they just acquired that's a Christian publishing company, and that's basically churches, but it could be schools as well. So they have a huge catalog, and they send it out, and when they're looking for productions to do, that's going to be among their choices. So my hope is that come this Christmas, it'll be here, and it'll be here, and it'll be here, and I'll get royalties.
All right, a big Christmas present.
That would be a nice Christmas present.
The other thing is a CD that you're putting together now.
Yeah, it should be out in about a month or so.
And what is this? What's in there?
This is called Remembering the 60s.
I see.
And it's exactly this. All familiar songs that you sang along with and danced along with in the 60s. It's really a salute to some of my favorite and influential singers of the 60s. And then I have a couple of recordings that I did. I started making records when I was 14.
Wow.
So I have a couple of those on there as well.
Right.
And then the cover is a picture of me. That was the cover of my first single, and I was 14.
Yeah.
And that picture of me with my mini skirt and my textured tights and my
there she is,
British hat.
Right there, yeah.
And there I am on a park bench, probably taken in Dobbs Ferry, New York, where I was from. And
Westchester County.
Westchester,
Where you
yeah.
used to take the train down to New York and Manhattan and schlep your goods down there when you were a teenager. I remember that story.
That's right, I did. That was my double life. I lived in this small village,
Right.
and then I could go to the big city in 40 minutes.
So how are people going to know this exists? How does this kind of thing get spread around these days?
Well, first of all, I have a website, beverlybremers.com.
Yeah.
Also, it'll be on Amazon, and so everybody who's used to shopping on Amazon.com, if you go in the music section, it
Right.
will be there.
Right.
Also, another site called CD Baby. Also, if you want to download it, it'll be on iTunes
Right.
and all the other sites. If anybody listening is into downloading MP3 files, you know, we
Right,
have
right.
that as well.
Boy, it's a brave new world out there for
It is.
distribution with the internet, isn't it?
It is. It's completely changed the music business. I'm not sure if it's all for the better from a monetary standpoint for the artists, but it's certainly for music lovers, because
Right.
you can get music anywhere and everywhere, and there's of course YouTube, and
Right.
you know, it gives a great opportunity to many more artists.
Right.
Than ever before, because you're not dependent on those giant record companies anymore.
Sounds good. Well, Beverly, we're going to call this interview part 1. And
Okay.
we're going to do a part 2. And I hope the folks are able to see that one too. And for you folks out there, thanks for dropping by. And it's been fun to do Voices in the Village with you. See you next time. Bye now.
That's 12 minutes.
Diane's Hallmark is a family-owned Gold Crown store that is much more than just a card store. Our women's department has apparel, accessories, and jewelry featuring Vera Bradley and Bagalini handbags. Our religious department carries many different Christian books and Bibles, plus a great selection of Christian gifts. Of course, we have a large selection of cards and gift wrap as well. Come in and experience our personalized service.
Parkinson's disease is a neurological movement disorder affecting an estimated 1 million Americans, including many under age 40. It has no cure. Parkinson's is not limited to how a person moves. It can also cause symptoms like depression, fatigue, and impaired speech. Today, there is a new diagnosis every 9 minutes, though Parkinson's can be present for years before being diagnosed. The American Parkinson Disease Association is the largest grassroots network in the United States, working to help ease the burden and find the cure. For more than 50 years, APDA has funded pioneering research and provided critical support to those affected by Parkinson's. Visit apdaoptimism.org today to find out how you can help millions live with dignity and optimism. Your action today will help APDA put an end to Parkinson's disease.
Hello there, I'm Bruce Harders, and this is Voices in the Village. Today we have part 2 of an interview with Beverly Bremers. Beverly is a singer, a songwriter, an actor, a director, and does voiceover teaching, and a teacher, I should say. Beverly, thanks again for coming by.
Thank you,
and
Bruce.
again, welcome to Voices in the Village.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, in part 1, we talked pretty much about your showbiz part of your life. Now we're going to get down to some of the more nitty-gritty. As an example, when you teach somebody, when you're working with somebody who is a singer, what's important to get across with a singer to make them a better singer?
Well, there are actually 2 elements to singing. There's the technical, which is being able to hit the notes correctly, not sing off key, keeping your rhythm. And this comes from breathing properly, so also you don't damage your vocal cords. So that's the technical part, and I always want to make sure that the singer has that. Then the other part is the performance, which in reality is the acting part. Stage presence, really truthfully delivering the lyrics. so that the listener believes that whatever it is you're singing about is what just happened to you. You're truthful emotion, showing your emotion. So there are those two elements. So there's really teaching and coaching, if I had to break it down. So some people come to me just for the teaching part, where they want to get their voices stronger and increase their vocal range, sing on key, breathe correctly. And then others will come with help with the performance, choosing the right key to sing a song in. How do they move? What are their emotions and that kind of thing. And then other people want both.
Right.
So I'll split an hour between the two.
When people come to you and they want to improve their singing, they're almost a type of singer in a shower, but they think they could perform, and they came to you. Is it possible to take, somebody that can hold a note? I'm not talking about somebody way out there that can't hold a note, but if they can hold a note, is there hope for them to become a fair to midland singer, do you think?
Oh, sure. There are a lot of singers out there who technically are not fabulous. Right? Most of rock and roll, for instance, would not exist if those were technically great singers. Is Mick Jagger considered a great singer, per se? Technically, no. So a lot has to do with what your emotions are and how truthful you are. We need to believe that whatever it is that you're singing in the song is really your true experience and feelings.
Right.
And so your emotions have a lot to do with it. And then, of course, stage presence, charisma,
when you say all those things, I think of Frank Sinatra.
Yes. Now, it's great if you have it all.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra was one of those performers that had it all. And even as he grew older and lost a little bit of his voice technically, his performance level was still so fantastic that it works today. And there are a lot of singers who maybe as they age get a little lesser in the technical area, or people like Tony Bennett, who I think has actually gotten better
I agree.
over the years.
Yeah.
So it can go either way. But that's the key. When you go to see a performer, you want to be moved in some way.
Right.
Whether it's just moved to dance or emotionally moved. That doesn't happen if you don't have this and this.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the technical. If you hit a bunch of bad notes, that's not going to sit well with anybody. But you don't have to be a Pavarotti to come across.
Interesting,
Yes.
interesting. Now, a songwriter.
Yes.
How do you go about writing a song?
Well, there is no one way to write a song. And there's no one way that even one writer writes a song. It depends completely on the subject matter and how they initially approach it. A song should have structure. That's something that I stress a lot with the writing, is it does have to have beginning, middle, and an end. It has to have a verse and a chorus and a bridge, or one major section.
Right.
But after that, there are many ways. You can start with one line that's catchy, either melodically or lyrically, which is known as the hook.
I was just
the
gonna
hook,
say,
that
the
thing
hook.
that you sing a lot. You can start with a scene in your head where you're talking to another person, and you play out that scene, and then the song progresses from there. You can start with a musical riff, dun dun da 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 da, any of those. So a lot of rock songs start off with that, and dance music in general, and then you start to come up with an idea like, oh, how does this make me feel? And you go from there. And then you rewrite, and you rewrite, and you rewrite.
Right. Well, you've got really the two-part, lyrics and music.
Yes.
Now, some people are very good at lyrics and not so good at music, and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they get a collaborator. You don't have to write both. I happen to write both, but I also do collaborate with people.
Right.
So sometimes I'll do the lyric and someone else will do the music, or I'll do the music and someone else will do the lyric. Or we write it together. We get together in a room And this is what a lot of groups do. And they just throw ideas out. And, oh, that's good. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I got a better idea. And that's how you do it.
I remember reading Gene Autry's autobiography, and the way he wrote a lot of songs, and especially with Smiley Burnett. And the way they would do it is if they heard somebody say something, if somebody said, "Oh, golly gee, look at that," they say, "Oh, golly gee, look at that," and they'd write a song about it.
Sure.
And they'd write it, if they were in the car listening to the car radio, by the time they got to their destination, they had written the song.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that was unbelievable.
Well, once you're a good collaborating team and you can bounce ideas off one another, a lot of times you can write songs fairly quickly, but also they automatically make them rhyme because they're so used to doing it. So there's a lot of work that you don't have to put in when you're experienced.
Right.
You can write a song about anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely anything. What's important is that you have a simple theme. You don't want to write a song on 5 different subjects because what we need is that repetition. So what's the main idea? And I always tell writers, once you've written a song, or even while you're writing it, can you sum it up in one sentence? What is the song about? If you go on and on, like, oh, it's about this, who does this, who does that, then too much, there are probably 3 or 4 songs in there.
Right.
Narrow it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Well, now let's move on to an actor.
Yes.
What makes a good actor?
Someone who's just believable. It's all about being real and truthful. And that's true with anything. You need to believe that the person that you're seeing on the stage or on the screen is that person. So whatever it is that actor has to do to make us believe that they're real, that's it. I think one of the reasons why reality TV has succeeded, even though a lot of us don't like it, we like seeing just regular people like us.
Right.
So when an actor plays a role, that's their job, is to make it just as believable so we forget that it's somebody else.
Right.
And then it's that person.
Well, how does an actor get to a point where they can think like that and be able to do that? I mean, it's one thing to realize that that's something important to do, but if that doesn't come naturally to them, I mean, I think probably your best actors, it just came naturally. They were born to be an actor, but those that weren't and have to struggle at it, how do they make that bridge from not knowing how to do that to it's got to be done?
Well, you have to have a certain amount of imagination and creativity, I think. I think that you can learn to be a good actor if you have that. It's basically answering the questions who, when, where, why, what. And this is true with writing as well, singing, whatever performing art, modeling, dance, you name it. You need to know who you are and who you're talking to. And in a play, of course, it's easier because they're already standing there. In voiceovers, which I also do, you have to pretend the microphone is that person.
Right.
And then you want to create a little scenario. Where are you and what time of day is it? And sometimes that's obvious. Other times you have to create it. Why are you saying what you're saying? And what is your emotion or your attitude? Because that's very, very important.
I guess there are a lot of people that get into that motive. What is it? Motive acting or method acting?
Yes.
Is that for real? Is that a good idea?
Oh yeah, method acting is actually very useful, and I teach it. I don't call it that, but that's kind of the same principle that I teach, especially with voiceovers. And it comes in handy a lot. Basically, if you're supposed to laugh, let's say right now you go, ha, that's a good one, okay?
Right.
What would be easier, for you to pretend that something strikes you funny, or for you, Bruce, to remember something funny that happened to you in your life and then laugh, okay? So method acting is simply taking you back to a time when you felt a real emotion, and it could be as far back as when you were 3 years old.
Right.
If you can remember what it felt like to win the spelling bee in first grade, you know, that feeling
Right.
of joy. So whatever those emotions are, if you can remember that, then it's really easy. If you're truthfully thinking of something that's funny, then when you laugh, it's
Right.
a real laugh, it's not a fake laugh. And that's what we're all looking for. So that's what method is. It's just using your own life's
I
experiences
see.
to bring back those emotions.
I've often heard that Spencer Tracy was probably one of the greatest actors out there. That
And he was untrained.
It didn't, yeah, and he didn't. It didn't matter what he played. He played it so well. It was just incredible how they did. How did he do that? Do you think, being an untrained actor?
He was just naturally natural. It's the best way of putting it. He basically was himself.
Uh-huh.
He just used parts of himself. And that's what a lot of actors do as well. A lot of the really big superstars, especially back a little bit, like in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s,
Right.
a lot of these actors, even though they were playing roles, they were pretty much themselves. It depended on who it was. But Spencer Tracy is a perfect example of somebody who just was relaxed, and he just took those lines to be personal, however it was. So whether he was playing an attorney or a playboy or whatever he was doing,
Yeah.
he just used that. But he was a natural.
Yeah, he was.
You know, and I think a lot of your successful actors are naturals.
Right.
But a lot of people listening right now may be naturals too. If you're
Yeah.
a good salesperson, for instance,
yeah.
sales is all acting.
That's right.
If you're any kind of great performer in any way, you know, if you're a good joke teller,
Right.
you know, storyteller, any of that, those are natural abilities that you have. So you just need to.
So when
develop.
you're a director, you have to bring all that out of people.
That's exactly what I do. I let people do their thing, and then I guide them a little bit to enhance whatever they're doing, or tone down if it's something that I don't think is working,
Right.
and bring out the best in everybody, and then get everybody organized. And of course, as you well know, you have to be patient as
Exactly.
well.
Well, Beverly, I can't believe it, but our time is up. And it's been a pleasure to have you in good old part 2 of our interview.
My pleasure.
I'm Bruce Harders. This has been Voices in the Village. You come back next time. Bye now.